Good afternoon, ASB. We are Garden Box Cookies from Oregon State University, go Beavs, and we're here to give you a bite of spring on the go. I'm Trenton Reed, the team captain of Garden Box Cookies and a second-year master's student.
I'm Sophia Pratt. I am a first-year undergraduate student, and our third team member, somewhere out in the audience, is Brandon Truong, a second-year undergraduate student.
To start off, what makes a Garden Box Cookie a Garden Box Cookie? We like to think of it as a set of complex combos. We have a soft, buttery shortbread cookie that's topped with a crunchy honey caramel, creating a distinct textural difference. This is also flavored using floral notes such as orange blossom, as well as complementary spices like cinnamon. We also looked at expanding into things like rose and mint, as well as elderflower and rosemary. Some of the key attributes of Garden Box Cookies are we are a good source of fiber derived from our use of whole wheat flour, as well as beeswax. We also use all natural ingredients, such as locally sourced honey, and we have our signature honeybee design. So I'm gonna go a little bit into the process of how we make Garden Box Cookies. We went through a bunch of iterations when it came to Garden Box Cookies. We tried sandwich cookies, we tried creating honey gummies, incorporating them into cookies, before we ended up setting on our shortbread honey caramel combo. When we were creating this, there was a couple technical problem solvings that kept coming up. The honey caramel and the moisture migration. When you're creating a caramel, you have to bring it up to 310 degrees Fahrenheit to get that hard crack. Well, honey has a lot of different sugars in it, each with their own distinct caramelization point. That means when we were doing pure honey, we kept getting these bitter flavors. So we ended up creating a 6:5 honey to sucrose ratio that gave us the optimal texture while minimizing those bitter flavors and creating a more well-rounded product. We also had to deal with moisture migration, which is always going to be a problem when you're making any sort of baked good. The hygroscopic caramel as well kept drawing in moisture, so we ended up drawing inspiration from a French classic, the cannelé. Cannelés use beeswax in their coating to create a nice chewy texture. We incorporated that into our mold staging for this product, and that allowed us to create a good, nice, chewy exterior while also creating a barrier for any moisture migration during packaging. So here's our benchtop process. It goes back and forth a little bit. It's a little convoluted, but it starts off by basically weighing everything out, whipping our butter, incorporating our flavoring agents before adding our dry ingredients, and chilling, and then pressing into our beeswax coated molds. We ended up refining this and moving forward with an upscale model that was a little bit more refined and straightforward. By skipping out on whipping the butter individually and just starting with our wet ingredients and fully creating that together before adding our dry ingredients and creating a cohesive dough ball, we were then able to pass that through a sheeter, portion it out, and applying it to pre-coated beeswax molds. We then allowed these to bake for 20 minutes at 325 to get a golden brown color. We then allowed these to cool completely, putting them through a tower cooling before drizzling over our honey caramel and hitting it with aerosol jets in order to set it immediately. They then passed through a visual inspection before packaging. When we were making our process, we ended up finding 4 critical control points that we needed to address. The first is the bacterial kill step, where we bake it at 20 minutes for 325. We ended up sufficiently raising the internal temperature to over 190 Fahrenheit, killing off any pathogens. We then have the visual inspection step that will look for any defects or any outliers in a cookie and make sure that we're getting a strictly regulated product. Next, we had modified atmosphere packaging. We are going to work by using a nitrogen oxygen flushing as well as a gas barrier packaging to make sure that our product is stable in any environment and any conditions. And finally, we'll go through an X-ray inspection to make sure we're eliminating any foreign objects, any debris such as metals or anything like that may get in there. So finally, we have our validation for this packaging, in which we did a 2-week shelf study. We took freshly baked samples and packaged them with our nitrogen flushing, and then we ended up monitoring our water activity before and after. At the start, it was 0.47, and at the very end, it was 0.53, well below that 0.6 threshold for any sort of mold or bacterial growth.
Now that we've covered how we made this product and how we made sure that it's safe, let's move on to the marketing aspect of Garden Box cookies. So, of course, you have to consider your competitors when you're marketing any product. For our competitor, we found that we were 20 calories lower, we had a lower sugar content, a higher fiber content, and a lower sodium content. Overall, a generally good comparison and a solid competitor to any other products similar to the Garden Box cookies on the market. On your left here, you can see our product mock-up for the packaging. We, of course, include that this is a good source of fiber, that it has locally sourced honey, and that these are all natural ingredients included in the Garden Box cookies. You can also notice that there's flowers on the packaging as well as honey to really highlight those key aspects of our product. Now, why would someone purchase a Garden Box cookie? Well, according to flavor trends coming into 2025, consumers are looking for flavors centered around healthy and calming attributes. Now, almost the entirety of our Garden Box product has many of these traits in it. The honey itself is a natural ingredient, as well as the florals and the spices, which also contribute to this calming effect. Now, honey itself is up 76% in social discussions, so this was a key attribute in our marketing of Garden Box cookies. The coziness factor is also something that we'd like to highlight. This product not only has those spices and that honey that make it very cozy, but it's an excellent pairing for teas. So where would you be selling Garden Box cookies? Well, as it goes with teas, you could see it on airlines, spas, hotels, but these are not only just good for that aspect, but they are locations where people are looking for a luxurious experience and where markets are really looking to expand into products that are going to be cheap and are going to satisfy their consumers. On the other hand, we want to make this product good for people who want a snack on the go. So places like college campuses, grocery stores, these are going to be places where we can also sell Garden Box cookies to really expand who our clients are going to be. Now, when it came to what we were going to focus on for Garden Box cookies, in a poll of our potential consumers, we found that on the lower end of things they were prioritizing, it was the brand, the packaging, the natural ingredients, and the nutritional content. So once we had a solid basis of those aspects, we really focused in on those top two things, the price and the appearance. This led to our sensory testing and analysis. Upon a sensory test of over 40 participants at Oregon State, we found that participants responded that they really liked the texture, the appearance, the sweetness, the flavor, the honey drizzle. So across the board, there were many things that they liked about our product. Additionally, some of the emotional descriptors that they provided for how they felt when they tried this cookie were interested and pleased and satisfied, pleasant, curious, all generally very positive emotional attributes associated with their experience in the sensory test. So aside from just what respondents were providing us through their words, we also have our statistics. We found that the overall appearance on a 9-point hedonic scale was a 6.1, while the color was a 6.24. So this was very close to our goal for the Garden Box cookies, which could definitely be achieved once we refine our process into the market. The overall liking was a bit below what we were hoping. This was mainly attributed, as we found from respondents, because of the thickness of the honey caramel. The honey caramel was a bit too thick for their taste, and so after our sensory test, we actually went back and we improved the honey caramel to make it thinner, make it more consistent, and a smaller group of panelists said that this was definitely an improvement. In terms of the just about right attributes, we tested color, sweetness, and softness. These were all found to be majority just about right by our panelists. At the end of the survey, we asked how much the panelists were willing to pay for a package of 2 Garden Box cookies. We found that on average, the college students were willing to pay about $1 to $1.99. So we're leaning towards the $1.99 price. We want to make sure that it's affordable for college students and for our other markets who want to buy our product for a lower price. However, there were definitely a large number of participants who were willing to pay that higher price for our product. Overall, we would have a very good profit margin since the cost per package is only 26 cents, even with our modified atmospheric packaging.
All right, thank you ASB and the National Honey Board, and especially thank you to Oregon Section IFT for your support. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.